Alright. Hopefully this is now live. Probably should open this and bring this over here, just have something open. Alright, let me, excuse me, get the dashboard up so I can actually see something, know what's going on with this. I have to double check that we're live. Yes, we are now live. Alright. And, yeah, I'm not dead. Despite the messages. People sending me like, Louie, are you dead? I'm not late. I'm like 5 minutes early. Late my ass. Alright. Yeah, I'm here. I'm not dead, but I did get banned off of Twitter, which is why I titled this stream what it is. Yeah, it has been a while. It has been a while. But, yeah, I'll say to you, the people just joining this right now, hit that like button. You gotta smash that like button. It's the only way to earn your crown. It's the first step to earning a crown like I have. You gotta like this video. So, yeah, it's pretty funny, because I don't know if anyone saw that Biden, thing earlier, that Biden speech. He just gave a speech claiming that he's going to make vaccines mandatory, and that includes for my employer as well, so not looking good there. So I might have more time on my hands in the near future depending on what happens, because I'm already getting fucked up at my job because of not having a vaccine. Like, there are legit penalties for not having the vaccine. And I was hoping to see if I could wait this out, but it's not looking good. So I might be finding myself back cashing some unemployment checks in the future. So yeah, Patrick just sent in a super chat. Says he is risen. Yeah, I'm back. I'm rolling the stone for the in front of the cave away, and I'm back. Yeah, my end pass expired. That's right. That's exactly right on Twitter. Just one day, I had 3 strikes. I had 3 tweets get reported, and they basically used those 3 as like a violation of their hateful conduct policy, so they banned me. So, yep. Unfortunately, I'm done on Twitter. That's it. I could try to appeal it, but I don't think they're going to. So I guess I'm just done on Twitter. It was a great ride, a long ride, but it's finally over. I knew inevitably that by doing what I did on Twitter, I would be eventually banned, and I was. I just didn't think it'd take this long. So yeah. Yeah, Jack finally turned on me. That fucking treacherous fuck. He eventually turned on me. He was giving me a pass for so long, but then eventually one day he woke up. He's like, no, you're done, Lou. You're done. I've had enough. One end too many, and he just cut me off, man. It sucks. So, yeah, that's it. The good news is for the people just joining now that I have a video already done. It's been done for like a week. I just wanted to do like an update video or something like that just to sort of explain where I've been, and the long and short of it is that I got a new job, and it's just been kind of exhausting. Not really that physically demanding, but just exhausting as a job. Like, I hate my fucking coworkers. The worst aspect of my job is my coworkers. I can't stand them. Not all of them are bad. Some of them are nice and competent and friendly, but there's a bunch that are not, and I cannot fucking stand them. So it's like there's multiple aspects of the job. Like, the work itself is easy, just repetitive, and there's a public-facing side of it. That's fine too. Like, I don't mind dealing with the public because they're just kind of annoying and stupid, but that's about it. It's like, they're not generally rude to me and that sort of thing, so it's not that big of an issue. But my coworkers fucking suck. Geth just said, I think the only way to stop these vax mandates is for half the country to quit and go on welfare. Do you think this will finally make Atlas shrug? I don't know. Like, I don't know. I mean, they're basically playing into the only direction they can, which is to go full vaccine mandate, which is what they're doing. Biden has basically declared through executive order that all employees for companies above whatever it was, 1,000 people or 800, 500, whatever the fuck arbitrary number he picked, that all employees must now be vaccinated and all public workers must be vaccinated, and that includes me. So I'm not going to do it, and I'll pretty much just leave it in their hands. Like, they were already giving me shit for not having it, and they weren't really, like, giving me grief about it, but they were just kind of like, well, we're kind of told we have to do this, so we don't really have a choice, so please do it. And I was like, no. And they're like, oh, okay. So I'm not really getting a lot of shit from my employers for not being vaccinated. They don't really want to know. They just basically, we're going to check you on a box, or we're going to put you on a list that says you're not vaccinated. Like, that's pretty much all they're doing with the information. But now with Biden and his mandate, where, I mean, what happens if you say no? And I'm probably just going to say no. That or just bullshit them. But I get the feeling that bullshitting them is the wrong strategy, because I saw this one guy that I worked with who's a new hire who tried that, and it just pissed them off. So I was like, they asked me, and I was just like, nah. And it's like, well, you plan on getting one? Nah. Oh, okay. And they just put my name on a list. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Oh, it's 100 people? Yeah. So that's most companies, I would imagine. Just not a lot of small businesses. Well, hey, I mean, if that's the position they're going to put me in, if you guys want to go out there and bust your ass and pay me for it, well, you're doing that either way, because I'm a public sector employee now. So it doesn't really matter, what happens, whether I have a job or I don't. The difference is whether I'm going to be doing work or not. Either way, you're going to be paying me. So I'm not really worried that much. And what's amazing, too, is that I had dinner with my parents, because I have today off. And I was trying to explain to them how the rhetoric that Biden used and the reasoning behind it doesn't make any sense. And they just wouldn't listen to any of it. They don't understand. And I was just like, man, I might as well just be mooing to you two. Like, you guys are such fucking cattle. So I was like, all right, I'm not going to debate this again. I did this last year. I don't really care. I told them last year I'm not participating in any of this more than I have to. And that's all there is to it. So they can just fuck off. It's just hilarious, because they both got vaccinated, and yet they have to do all the same things I do. They still have to wear a mask. They still have to wear gloves. They still have to do this and that. Like, it's just amazing. My father works in the public sector, has to wear a mask and gloves. My mother works in the private sector, has to wear a mask and gloves. So do I as a public sector employee. So it's like everyone has to abide by the same standards, irrespective of their vaccination status. Why the fuck would I do anything? Because it doesn't make a difference. They're just going to perpetuate this forever. All these different countries have differing vaccination rates, and some of them are like really, really high. They're still locking down. They still have all the mandates. They still have all the limitations. Why participate? It does not make a difference. So, yeah, gloves. People asking in the chat, yes, gloves. Yes, gloves. My father has to wear gloves according to his employer. So does my mother. And it's because she works in industry. So literally everyone there has to wear gloves when they're out and about. Like at your cubicle, you can not wear gloves. But outside of your cubicle, you have to wear gloves. And I'm the same. Like, they're just inventing shit. Mask all day, gloves for half the day. It's just insane. But the thing is, vaccinated, unvaccinated, everyone follows the same fucking standard. So why bother? Why bother? Why do anything more than you have to do? Because ultimately the powers that be are going to just decide whatever they're going to decide. There's no reasoning, there's no quote-unquote science really beneath any of this. It's just fiat. It's just, whim. That's what determines all of this. So it doesn't matter, and I'm not participating. I said it last year. I'm not participating with any of this. I don't care. Gettr says, Fed employees and contractors are the majority of GDP. I can't really determine that, but what I can say is that at least a dozen other coworkers of mine are not vaccinated, and I know that for a fact, because anytime they deal with the public, some of them wear these face visors. So not only are they wearing gloves, they're wearing fucking masks, or some of them are double masks. Some of them are also like double masks and wearing face visors. So, and I don't do any of that shit. And I've never been asked to do any of that shit. They brought it up as one of the rules, and I just didn't do it. I'll wear the gloves when I have to, and I'll wear the mask for all time because you have to. But in terms of like the face visors and all that, unless I'm told directly to do it, I'm not going to. Because there's not really any penalty for not doing it until they find you out, and so far they haven't, and I don't really care. Yes, and right now they are demonizing people who have not been vaccinated. It's just kind of incredible. Biden did it on that broadcast that he just did announcing his mandate. They are demonizing people who are not vaccinated by saying that people who are unvaccinated are infecting those who are vaccinated. And it's like, that's just fucking ridiculous. That's retarded. Okay? The vulnerable people are the unvaccinated. The people who are supposedly immune are the vaccinated people. And none of that's true. None of the things that they're saying are true. They are literally flipping what is true in scientific on its fucking head. And that's why I said last year that I'm not participating in any of this. All of it is about fucking power. None of it's about saving any lives. So anyone who's concerned about it in the federal government and all that can fuck off. That's my position on it. No, you say double mask. Dude, double mask people are all over the place. Since getting this new job, I've never seen more double mask people in my fucking life. It's insane how many people are just rolling about double masked. It's insane. They're wearing like these cleaning masks and the stupid paper mask, which I wear. So they're wearing the paper mask and the fucking like cleaning mask on top of one another. It's just insane. Jafar the Blade says, you've nigged your last Louis. Yes, that is correct. That is correct. In public in my area, not many people wear masks. It's mainly like awfuls. Affluent white female liberals, they wear masks a lot. But outside of them, most people in my area are not wearing masks. It's mainly awfuls. Yeah, everyone that I know that is employed currently wears a mask at work. Everyone. Every single person I know, my parents, my friends, my coworkers, obviously, everyone that I know, other members of my family, like extended family, everyone who I know that's employed wears a mask at work. And like, it's like my father's company has a specific guideline as it relates to the mask. Like, he can't get away with wearing the stupid paper mask that I have to wear. He has to wear like the surgical, not the surgical mask, but the whatever, the standardized ones that are for like cleaning and shit. He has to wear those. My mother and I, we just have to use the stupid face mask. My one friend who works for a private sector company, he has to wear specialized masks and gloves. So I'm not alone in that. I don't know why a lot of people are saying that they don't have to wear gloves, but my whole family does. My one friend has to, and I have to. Well, not all the time. He has to all the time. I don't have to all the time. And neither does my mother. But my father has to all the time. So, there's no end in sight with any of this. so long as this is just based on fiat power of the government, this is just based on whim entirely, there is no end in sight for any of this. So why participate? That's what I've been saying since last year. If there is no mechanism by which that this could ever end, why bother doing any of it? No more than you have to. And I've reached basically the line, which has been, if my employer comes to me and says, you have to have the vaccine to be employed here, I am just going to say no. And you can determine what the effects of that are going to be. I'm not going to. If you are going to lay me off or furlough me or whatever you're going to call it, or fire me outright for insubordination for not getting the vaccine, do so. But I'm not doing it. Because it wouldn't make a difference. It would not make a fucking difference. It doesn't change anything except for how the virus would affect me. It wouldn't change transmissibility. It wouldn't change anything other than the effects that it would have on me. And that's ultimately my determination. Yeah, someone in the chat says they work outside wearing a mask. I know several people that work outside for a living and have to wear a mask. That fucking sucks. Some people, I know a few people that do construction stuff that don't have to do it. I know somebody that does roofing that doesn't have to wear a mask, even though they work with a group of guys on a roof. But I think they're vaccinated or whatever, so they're basically saying well, now we're immune. So even though that's not true, so you basically get to determine for yourself what the vaccine does to you. My father seems to think it makes you immune, even though Biden on television today explicitly says it doesn't do that, and that it doesn't affect transmissibility, it just affects how the virus affects you, and that's it. And yet, someone like my father thinks it makes you immune. It's just stupid. In any case, so are we saying anything in the chat other than a word that starts with N? Is that the only thing that's going on here? In any case, Gus says, girl asks if I'm vaccinated. I say no. She says, good. All I smell is alcohol. We chat and we get along. Cute 10-minute rant about Mark of the Beast and all the vaxxed becoming Satan. Me whispering, what the fuck, all the way to the car. It was the second end of the, it was the second end or two end of the bell curve. Oh, two ends of the bell curve meeting. Yeah, I know what you mean. And what's funny is that most of the people at my place of employment that are not vaccinated are black. It's me and two other white people that aren't vaccinated, and literally everyone else is black. Coney says, when are you becoming a Florida man? I don't know. I don't know if that's happening. I'm still in New York for whatever reason, but I don't know. We'll see. I hate this fucking state. That's all I'll say. In any case, I thought Louis was stuck in Afghanistan. No, I'd update you from Twitter. I'd be saying a lot different shit on Twitter if I was stuck in Afghanistan. Majid asks, any Biden regret syndrome in your family? Well, my mother voted for Trump. It's the first Republican she's ever voted for. And my father voted for Biden. And he seems to just view Biden as basically an embarrassment. But, because his union was, Trump bad, that's his opinion. Pretty much, that's his worldview. Is my union said Trump bad, therefore Trump bad. And my mother thinks that Biden's retarded and that Trump was a far better option, so she voted for him. Bruce says, every vaccine until now made you immune. What's the point of an mRNA vaccine if it can't do the bare minimum. Well, I mean, all I know is, like I said, no one's actually making a reasonable argument for the vaccine, other than old people should get it because they're sickly and old, and fat people should probably get it because they're sickly. Like, those are the arguments that I've seen that I actually agree with. That if you're fat, maybe you should think about getting it because COVID seems to affect fat people pretty bad. And if you're old, you should probably get it because viruses and diseases and all that affect you way more than, it's just like pneumonia. Like, what a killer that would be. It's just like old people are sickly, so we should be concerned about their health. I agree. But it's like the point in which the debate was supposed to be had was last year, and it's been a long time since then, okay? We're fucking now in September, all right? We're approaching, like, middle of September, and there's no debate anymore. It's just get the vaccine because it makes you immune. Oh, wait, no, it doesn't. Oh, wait, transmissibility is coming from the unvaccinated. Oh, wait, no, that doesn't make any sense because it's coming from both. Blah, 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 blah. I mean, I just... I say this to my parents and other people at work when the topic comes up, that there's no argument for participating. There's no argument for dealing with any of this. Like, my opinion is that I'm just going to ignore this for myself. The reason being, there's not a reasonable argument on the other side in terms of participation. There is no reasonable argument. Cubic says, just joined, no idea what you're talking about, donating because I'm happy to see you back. I'm talking about COVID. Even though it's probably not a good idea here on YouTube, but I'm not, nothing I'm saying, like, literally Biden today was saying that transmissibility is possible. Literally Biden today was talking about how the vaccine does not make you immune. It just changes the effects of the virus. That is the best they can hope for with the vaccine, is that it makes you less susceptible to the worst consequences of having COVID. And that's it. And people are still dying with the vaccine from COVID. It's just a small amount. That's the same before the fucking vaccine. There was a small amount dying from it. Nothing's changed. In any case, the longest 2 weeks ever. The engaged few says, I was at a receiver last week who asked me if I was vaccinated. I asked them if they were familiar with the Americans with Disabilities Act, which forbids discrimination based on medical conditions, and if they wanted their 37 tons of beef delivered. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what can be invoked. I don't think my employer would find it very persuasive to just say, well, I have a disability or this law says otherwise. They don't really seem to be motivated by that or persuaded by that, and you can't really bullshit them. They can easily see through it. A coworker of mine tried to bullshit them about getting a vaccine at some point, and they did not like that. And I just flat out said no, and they accepted that answer. Because I'm not the only one there who's not vaccinated. It's me and like a dozen other people that are, basically work the same time as I do. Well, somebody just said something in the chat that I can't repeat about what the vaccines actually do. I can't repeat that. But I'm just told what I'm told. And I'm going by literally the best propaganda from the White House itself. Like, that is the position I'm taking on the virus. It's literally the propaganda from the White House. And that's the basis I'm using for my reasoning. And yet still, it's just, they're mooing. Everyone else is mooing to each other about the virus. And I'm here just trying to say, well, listen, this is what the White House is actually saying. Not Trump, not people on Twitter or on Gab or some shit or some anti-vax Facebook page. I'm literally telling you what the White House says. And you're still rejecting it. So why bother discussing this? I'm not participating, and you can't force me to. It's just stupid. All I know is that I don't think my employer can get away with just laying off over a dozen people. I don't think that's going to work out too well where I work if they lay off a dozen fucking people because none of us have a vaccine. I don't think it's going to work out the way that they think it's going to. Anyways. Yeah, thanks for the super chat there, Engaged Few. Big super chat. Let me think. There's something else. Sargon asked me to fucking view a video of his, so maybe we'll do that at some point. He hit me up over on Discord and said I should watch a video of his, so maybe we'll do that. I'll have to plug in my headset, because I unplugged that. Oh yeah, and by the way, there's a new Life is Strange out. Let me find, it's Life is Strange True Colors, I want to say, yeah. So yeah, there's a brand new Life is Strange game out, so I'm going to be considering playing 9 out of 10 on... Oh my god. 9 out of 10 from IGN. Oh shit. It's already funny. It's already funny. Oh man. But yeah, I got a commentary I've already recorded. It's sitting right here on my desktop. It's for the Saints Row game. So I think a lot of you are going to be surprised by that commentary that I do on that Saints Row reboot. I think a lot of people are going to be surprised. I think a lot of people are going to be like, oh, he's going to go off and he's going to agree with the herd. He's going to be mooing in the same direction as them, because a lot of people are lashing out at that reboot. But no, you'll see. I'll upload that tonight probably. A lot of people in the chat reacting to the new Life is Strange. Dude, it stars an Asian girl. At least I'm pretty sure she's Asian. Come on. Come on, Don't Nod. The last game fucking sucked ass. You gotta give me something good here. You gotta give me something good. Man. Yeah, a lot. It seems like a lot of people are anticipating it. Cubic says... Oh, I missed one. Hold on. Richard says, donations for the Church of Louis. Thoughts on DeSantis, Rhino or not? I have mixed opinions on DeSantis. I always say that pragmatically I could see myself supporting him. But I think that he is a bit of a wolf in sheep's clothing. I think that he's probably more self-interested than... he's just a less obvious Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz is an obviously self-interested politician, and he adopted, like, the cloak of an evangelical Christian. With DeSantis, he's taking on the cloak of basically Trumpianism, or populism, by that metric. Like, a very watered-down form of nationalism. There are very good upsides and downsides with DeSantis, and I could honestly see him being more effective than Trump was. But in many ways, I could also see him being very piecemeal and shitty in comparison to Trump. I could basically, if there was a part of the right that was basically prodding DeSantis to do as much as possible that was like right-wing, nationalist, whatever, like if he was susceptible in some way to us prodding him, then I would say we should support him, because it doesn't really matter what his motivations are so long as he's doing what we want. But until I can see that aspect of him, I'm kind of like cautious about him. He's probably like the best of the best of what could be decided outside of Trump himself. But it's looking like Trump is going to run again. So DeSantis has already said that he's not going to run if Trump runs. So I think he's going to stand by that, because it would be political suicide for him to betray Trump. You play as a frumpy Asian chick? No, I want her to be thin. No, I want the girl to be thin. No. Cubic says that the new Life is Strange is about having the power to read emotions which is basically like, if you're a sociopath, that would be your superpower. It is literally made for people with autism that view this as a power. I guess so. I've had some interactions with autistic people because of my job, and I gotta say that my opinion of autism has definitely remained the same, in that, in my view, it's basically equitable to being mentally retarded. You have basically a problem just controlling yourself. Sorry for those of you that may be autistic, but I'm just saying I would not give you any kind of power because you guys seem to have a legit mental illness. Anon says, but Louis, imagine if you die from COVID after refusing the jab. That would be super embarrassing. I mean, would it really matter? Would it really matter? I'll be dead. You nailed it on trying to converse with the Vax cattle. The Trust the Science line is performative from midwits who can't do real analysis. When questioned, at best they throw some random stat from the MSM outlet that in no way supports their claims when you got cut off there, Geth, but I agree with you thus far. Louis, great to see you. Hope the alphabet soup is susceptibly spicy for you. It's a bit old, but I've been meaning to ask. But any word on who King Dago Cuomo pissed off last month? It's like the establishment vomited out for something. Well, he just basically ran his course. He didn't really have much political support in the state. He had burned through most of the political capital he had. And he basically rested on his laurels too long. And entrenched power only works when you're able to crack the whip effectively, and you are able to keep enough allies around you that it basically, you know, if someone, you know, if he was accused of something, he could have blamed it on someone else, and they take the fall for him. They fall on their sword for him to protect him. But he got hit with 2 serious blows with the allegations of sexual harassment that led to an actual prosecution or investigation, then prosecution, and the old people dying. Those 2 mistakes are basically what sunk him. And I think that, honestly, the reason why they came down on him with the sexual harassment scandal is to avoid the old people dying in the nursing homes, because that appeared to be the far greater scandal. Because after he left, Kathy Hochul came out and was like, yeah, by the way, we bullshitted the stats. The numbers are way worse. And I said that last year when it was a story. I said to my parents, and probably on a stream, that the numbers are way worse and they're lying about them. And sure enough, after he left, they admitted to that. They lied about the numbers. Roe Crusader says, good to see you back, man. Back during the evacuation of the U.S. Embassy in Afghanistan. I made a video inspired by you. I slapped it together. Hope you enjoy. I'll have a look at that later, Rogue Crusader, but thank you. But yeah. 657 from Rogue Crusader. Thank you. That's what I was expecting more. I'm getting a lot of $5 donations. I want to see some 657s, all right? That's what I want to see. Not trying to be greedy, but we got to keep things on point here. Nakivine says moo for $5. No Name says, watch out, everyone in your audience is autistic. Oh, okay, I'm sorry, guys. No offense. No offense to my audience members. The guest says, could legit... okay, here's the last part of it. At best, they throw random stats from the MSM that in no way support their claims when they could legit... I can't follow that. Could we legit propagate the idea of a general worker strike over the vaccination, get on it on a scale of millions? No, because the other side is also pro-vaccine. Trump has promoted vaccines and has been booed because of it. So there is no side in America that's basically anti-vax. Everyone is pro-vaccine. So there is no way to actually have a strike about it because it's just a minority. It's, you know, most black people and right-wing whites. Like, that's it. Those are the groups that haven't been vaccinated. So there's no real organization that we can have to do a strike. It's just not possible. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't really know if I want to continue talking about COVID. Let's see here. I had an article that I saved. I guess we can get to that. It's from today. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, this has been a weird story. So I'll bring this up, even though this is not really a newscast stream. I just think that this is important because this is an article from Revolver, which is called "While Americans Get Woke, China Cracks Down on Toxic Celebrities, Girly Men, and Video Games." So for some reason, China has been basically launching a new campaign to crack down on all the aspects of their society that the state dislikes, which is video game usage by children, sort of effeminate celebrities, and other like aspects of their culture. Like one of the things they banned is like children of celebrities being on television and having some role in their society. So they're banning people that are similar to like the siblings of the one Kardashian, whatever, Jazz Jennings, who's one, I believe, another. Oh no, that's I can't remember who is and isn't a Kardashian, but the point is that they're actually taking steps to affect the culture within their own nation, and they're doing so in a way that I'm not really sure I can argue is going to necessarily work or not. I would say that basically for the cattle of their society it would work, but I don't know if doing this really eliminates the existence of this aspect of the culture itself. It may eliminate the promotion of it necessarily. So, for example, I think one of the reasons why there's so many more transgender people among Gen Z than there was Gen X, let's say, is because of it being actively promoted in culture, in society. I think that there's not much argument around that. I think I haven't seen anyone argue otherwise. I'm not, the only argument is, well, more people are trans, therefore it's more acceptable, therefore they're saying they are trans. That doesn't seem obvious. The obvious thing is the promotion of it in culture. So I would say that them cracking down on this in some ways may have an effect, but I don't know if necessarily this is the thing that's actually going to change their culture. And this article actually makes very good points about South Korea and the changes they've made, related around their births and other such things, that it hasn't actually made a difference what the state does. And in China, there's a question of what effect it could actually have. So this is a pretty long article, but I just thought I would recommend this because I would say that one of the things that has really been shown in Biden's administration of the United States is the fact that America is clearly in decline. I can't imagine anyone at this point is going to deny that fact. I don't know of anyone who's going to deny the fact outside of like awfuls and people within like the sort of like cushy, wealthy, highly educated sort of bullshit crowd that live this sort of like vapid, meaningless, material existence. They live in inner cities, like that sort of thing, cosmopolitan, like those kind of people who are still are miserable. They are miserable. They would say that society's fine or headed in a good direction because basically we're deconstructing our entire civilization. But everyone else who is sane has to see that America is in decline. Like the entire West is in fucking decline. But America is in very steep decline at the moment. And our horrific loss in Afghanistan, which is now listed as a loss, it's being regarded as a loss. I mean, that is just another sign. I mean, that's one of the things that happened to the Soviet Union right before it collapsed. I mean, now we have the same stain against the United States. We were in Afghanistan for 20 years, spun our wheels, changed nothing, and just retreated and lost the war. So, what? I mean, and the fact is that there was no winning it. By the metrics of how we do things, there is no means by which that we could win. There are ways in which we could have won that war, but they would have been so brutal and barbaric that we would have been cast out by many of the people in the Western nations. We would have been seen as basically monsters had we done what was basically necessary to win that war. But we didn't do that. We did the opposite, and that's why, of course, we lost it. But it's another sign that our society, America's society, and Western society is in steep decline, an undeniable decline. And I just thought I'd present this article because China, unlike the United States, which is basically leaning in, we're leaning into the decline. Like, the vehicle that is the nation is basically, it is skidding off the road into the ditch. And right now the government itself is basically turning into the skid. And we're still heading right into the fucking ditch. But it's like, we're still just, rather than turn away or whatever you would have to do to avoid going in, we're basically just like straightening the wheel to go straight into the ditch as soon as possible. Like, our government could not be doing more to destroy this country at the moment. It's terrible. And I had to sit through like just an hour's worth of diversity training when I was training for my job. Like a full fucking hour of diversity SJW bullshit. It was awful. But in any case, I thought I'll link this article because I like it. It's a good article. Let's see here. The Gettr says, over here is rebellious to be masculine and responsible. Over there, it is rebellious to be a lazy degenerate. Go figure. Rogue Crusader says, for a big donation. Also, you should stream more, you fucking bitch. I saw your mom the other day. Jesus Christ, bro. Not much of a looker, is she? But that's okay. She could suck me off for only $5. She rubbed me wrong time. Wow, Crusader. That's a pretty fucking nasty... It's a nasty comment, but I'll take your $50. Thank you. I've heard your argument that China's gaming law would save single-player gaming. I've also heard arguments that China's gaming law would save single-player gaming. Devs will have to focus on story and single-player game instead of online play. Sure. Most online games suck ass, so I don't really care. Andrew says, for $6.57, glad to have you back, Pastor. Thank you for that donation. Gettr says, Afghanistan is a perfect example of my previous super chats about why I'm not scared of getting Waco'd. Does anyone think the feds can throw down anymore? Probably still, yeah, I would say. I would still say you have a decent right to fear the federal government. But at some point, like I said to Sargon, they are going to become SJW-fied retards who can't do anything. Because... there's only so many jocks that you can recruit. There's only so many beefy jocks that you can recruit into the government. And the fact of the matter is that the way things are skewing, it's going to be basically minorities that they're hiring on for the near future because it's like, it's some unbelievable number of white men are not going to college and are not doing any of this. So for the future, like... Of the people that I work with, I am one. There's basically an even split for the new hires. Most people are younger than me. Most of the people there that are new hires are not white. A bunch of them are women as well. So you're not going to have these like female super soldiers out on the streets bashing my head in. That's not possible. That's not going to happen. So what can you do? And that's the argument I made to Sargon that he didn't find convincing. But I have to disagree still. Like, at some point, they're going to run out of Gen Xers and Boomers to wield the batons just empty-mindedly. That they'll just do whatever they're told. Like, eventually they're going to run out of people. Diddly Dooler says, collections to the pastor, gonna miss you in my Twitter feed. Oh, based one. Yeah, sorry, dude, but I'm done there. Rogue Crusader says, don't forget to tell us the story of the racist black guy you encountered on your job. Yeah, that was bad. You recently brought up on Twitter before he got yeeted. So yeah, I can tell that anecdote, I guess. So I was at work, and I basically every once in a while, with the public side of this job, I encounter someone who's just nasty. They just have a nasty fucking personality. And so I had somebody bring me, basically a coworker, or a contractor, I'll say, a contractor who brought me this black guy in a wheelchair. And he was probably in his 80s, I want to say. Late 70s or 80s. I have a hard time telling age, honestly, mask or otherwise, because I run into people who are like, you know, I'll ask you as part of the job, like, how old are you? And they'll say, well, I'm 60 years old. And it's like, my parents are older than that. And this person looks like they're like 70, you know, 75. And they're like, yeah, I'm 60 years old. And it's like, holy shit. So yeah, man, I don't know what people do to themselves to age this poorly. But man, I've had some run-ins with people that, like, I could not tell their age at all. In any case, this black person gets brought to me, and I'm trying to do my job with this person. And I can't explain what I asked them to do, but they asked me to do something on their behalf. And they did so in a really quick, nasty way, just, you need to do this for me, that sort of thing. And I ignored them, and I did what needed to be done effectively, but quickly and not in a way that they wanted. And the problem is that they wanted me to do something that I could have done, but they did not explain it in a way that I understood. And so while I had just done what was necessary, I had basically disregarded what they had said. And so this black guy got really fucking offended that I did that. Really angry. And a supervisor, or not a supervisor, well, yeah, I guess effectively a supervisor was nearby. And he was also a black guy. And he's like in his 40s. And so this guy was just like ranting and raving at me, like, you motherfucker, you don't know what you're doing, blah, blah, blah. And I just didn't care. Like, he's not the first person I've encountered who was rude to me. And the best thing that you do is just bullshit people with being polite and just wave them on, because literally they can do nothing to you. You can't get me fired. You cannot get me fired. So long as I am doing my job, you cannot get me fired. That is one of the beauties of my job, is that so long as I am doing what is SOP, you cannot get me fired at all, unless you provoke me into violating the SOP by saying something to you, doing something to you. If I violate the standards of practice, then you can get me fired or disciplined or whatever. But so long as I stay within and I don't react and I just, act stupid or whatever, you cannot fucking touch me. And that's basically how I reacted to him, was I just stopped and did nothing. And when someone else queued up behind him that needed to be helped, I basically said, all right, sir, you're all taken care of. It's all set. Right this way. I'll see you out. And he was like, no, you fucker, you're not just casting me aside, blah, 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 And I forget exactly what he said. You have to bear in mind, this is over a week ago, I want to say. I think more than that this happened. Probably more like 2 weeks ago this happened. So I don't remember the exact details of what he said. Maybe I should have written some of it down. But he basically was just motherfucking me and telling me to go fuck myself and all this shit. And a lot of people were like, my coworkers and other people basically heard this guy because he was yelling at me. And the supervisor comes up, who's a black guy, and asks him what the problem is, and basically pointed to me and said, this white motherfucker doesn't know what he's doing. And I said, no, we're taken care of here. He's all set. He's all set to, move away. We're good to go here. And so basically, the supervisor took this guy away, wheeled him away, he rolled on, and the supervisor never came back to me. Never came back, never told me I did anything wrong, never corrected me, never said a fucking word to me. You know, never even told me to ignore the guy or anything, just never came back. And I was like, all right, you know, you can motherfuck me all you want, but you can't get me fired unless I react. That's the only way you can get me disciplined, is if I react to you. But so long as I'm just doing literally what the job is, you can't get me fired. And that's the upside of the job. So I'm pretty much untouchable. Unless I don't get the vaccine and my agency takes it seriously. And, you know, then maybe I will get shit canned. But whatever. It was just a weird interaction with this black guy who I'm pretty sure was racist. And that was his biggest bone to pick with me, was that I didn't listen to him. I just did what was necessary, and that he doesn't like white people. So that was the interaction that I had. But I just did not give a shit. And I just tried to be as polite, and I just played stupid. I was like, no, you're all set, sir. No, we got it taken care of. Don't worry, sir. Like, that's how I reacted to him cussing me out. Because that's how I was trained to react. They train you to just be, no matter what they say to you, just react positively and be polite and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, I'm going to do that, but I'm going to be doing it in a way that's over the top and goofy. That is me just mocking them. I've done that to people. I've done that to coworkers to just fuck with. Because like I said earlier in the stream, that my least favorite aspect of the job is not even the public. It's my coworkers. There are several coworkers that I have that I just straight up dislike. And there's several that dislike me back, even though I've only been working there for like full time for like a month, you know? But yeah, it's just funny how you can operate, but I've always been good at that. That if I can work within the rules and do whatever I want to and get away with anything so long as I'm doing the job and focus on just doing the job, then I'm going to do that. Like, there's not been a single day that I've worked where I haven't done the job exactly as it needed to be done. Regardless of what my coworkers may think. Because one of the problems I have is that some of these people who I work with have been at this agency for like 20 years. Some of these people have been with the agency for a very long time. And every fucking person, whether they've been there 20 years, 5 years, 2 years, 5 months, like every fucking person has a fucking opinion for how you're supposed to do your job. That is the single worst aspect of my job, is how everyone looks at themselves as a supervisor, and they're going to come over there and they're going to tell you for 10 fucking minutes on how to do your job, and how they think they need to do their job, and how they do the job. Like, it is the worst aspect of the fucking job, period, bar none, is every fucking day, dude, I have something like that happen to me. And some of these people do it in the way that it should be done, which is, you make a mistake, you seem uncertain, hey, don't forget this is how you do it, just so you know, and they walk away. That I'm totally fine with, but the 10-minute fucking lectures are the things that I can't stand, especially when all of these people who have done that to me, none of them have been supervisors or like management. None of them. It's all been people that are on the same rank as me. They're just been there for a long time. And it's like, you know, there's ways to correct people's actions. There's ways to offer suggestions. But the thing that I can't stand is the amount of times it happens every day, day in, day out, and how long it is. Like, you do it, be concise. And that's one of one of the guys who dislikes me. One of the guys who dislikes me at my job is this fucking butterball dickhead. Real haughty, prissy, faggoty attitude from this guy. I do not like this guy because of how haughty and prissy he is. And he's this butterball fucking dude. This dork. So many of my coworkers are fucking dorks. Like, I play card games, and I play tabletop games, and I do this and I do that, and, you know, I'm 37 and hey, Louis, do you want to talk about Fortnite? And it's like, no, you dork. No, I don't want to. I don't want to talk about video games at work. I don't want to talk about your card game. I don't want to talk about the Avengers or Marvel. I don't want to talk about any of this shit, you dorks. It's so fucking lame. You know? In any case. Sorry, I'm probably going to piss off most of you by like, Louis, you're saying that if I worked with you, you wouldn't want me to talk about this card game I play? No, you fucking faggot nerd! Let's talk about sports! Let's talk about guns! Let's talk about politics! Let's talk about something interesting, something manly, or anything related to work, or some interaction you had with a person in public, or you said something mean, or did something crazy, or a road trip you took, or your wife, or your kids. Anything! The weather! I don't want to talk about your nerdy shit hobbies, or the faggot shit you watch in the movie theaters. Anyways, where was I? Anyways, the butterball I worked with. So him and I dislike each other. And I fuck with this guy because he won't leave me alone. He keeps coming up to me, making these quips about how I'm not doing my job, of how I need to do this. And then, like, he says all these quips. And every time he says it, I go, oh yeah, you sure? Oh, you're right. You're probably right. Like, I say it just like I'm saying, like, I don't speak normally. I just go, yeah, you're probably right. Oh, yeah, you got it right. You know, you're probably right about that one. Oh, yeah, you know what you're talking about. Yeah, thanks. Like, I just say shit like that to him, and he gets so fucking angry. Like, you can see him visibly angered when I do that shit. And it's like, the whole point, dude, is that I'm being polite to you. I'm acting within the rules, but take the hint, you fat faggot. Leave me alone. Leave me alone to do my work. Some people don't really get it. Some people are just incapable of understanding that they don't want to talk to your haughty, prissy, faggoty fat ass about whatever it is that you want to talk to about how, you know, I've been here 5 years, Louis. Let me tell you how to do the job. I've been here 5 years, and I think I have a good idea how to do this job. Am I a supervisor? Am I a trader? Am I part of management? No. I'm the same rank as you, but I've been here for 5 years and haven't advanced at all. But let me tell you how to do the job. Allow me to tell you what to do, even though that's not my place to do so. And it's like, oh yeah, you go ahead, tell me, come on over. And so that guy I've been fucking with that way. That's how I've been fucking with that guy. So there's this other guy who's this guy's twin brother. Okay, not really, but by physical appearance, twin brother. Same height, practically. Like slightly shorter than I am. Fat. And I mean like 450 pounds, somewhere around there. You know, just... So we're talking like 5'8", 5'9", 450 pounds. You know, ball of butter, manlet, big bushy beard on both these fucking faggots. And just similar personality. Quiet, no friends at work, no one likes them. As far as I can tell. I know 2 other people that started with me. Both of these people hate these 2 guys. Because they do to them what they do to me. And they just come up and just tell you how to do the job. They tell you, they lecture you about what to do. And so, finally, the one guy who's his twin brother, it's like, he comes up to me, and he starts going into this long-winded explanation about how to do this certain aspect of the job. And I'm like trying to tell him, like, dude, I've had every person in here comment to me every day about how to work this position. Do you really think that you are going to be telling me anything that I haven't either already heard or isn't something that contradicts a dozen other opinions that I have already heard? And I said this flat out to the guy. I said to him, listen, I have heard this from at least a dozen other people. Do you think you're going to be telling anything I haven't heard? And if you have, and if it isn't anything I haven't heard that you're telling me, you're going to be directly contradicting someone else on how to do this, okay? You're contradicting someone else, because that has happened at least 6 other times with the other 6 that everyone has their own opinion, everyone contradicts one another, no one's right, I can do nothing right, and so I'll do whatever the fuck I want to do. You know, can you understand that? Can you grasp that? Does he take that at face value? No. He continues into his fucking 10-minute lecture on how to do a job. You know, 10 minutes in, just continuing forever about how to do the job itself. And one of the things that, you know, eventually I get to is where I say, you know what? I've had enough, no more, you know, I'm tapping out of this conversation, I'm done. And the problem is where I couldn't just walk away. That was the thing my parents were like, well, if these guys are bothering you, walk away. Well, it's like, I have an assigned station at work. I can't just walk away. I have a job to do. I can't just walk away from my fucking station. That violates SOP. You know, I'm going to get fucking disciplined if I do that. So I'm a hostage. So to the other Butterball, I said to, you know, him, when he was continuing on with his lecture, after I literally explained to him, stop going on with this. I understand what I'm supposed to do. You're not telling me anything I haven't heard. And everyone has an opinion here, and you guys contradict each other on how I'm supposed to work this position. Just stop. He disregards all that and continues on. So I just say to him, listen, my man, all right, we're here to both do a job. Can we shorten this up? Can we wrap this up, please? Straight up. Can we just wrap up this conversation? Because I don't want to listen to this anymore. And I just said that straight up to him. And he I saw his face go beet red right in front of me. His face just goes, it just blushes or flushes. And he just did not say another word, and he just walks away. And it's like, well, what do you want me to say, dude? You wouldn't take the hint. You wouldn't take the hint. So I got to just flat out tell you, I don't want to talk to you anymore. Go away. And the thing is, too, is I didn't even say that. It's not like I told this guy to go fuck himself. I said, can we wrap this up? Can you be a bit more concise for me, my man? Wrap it up. You know, it's like Chappelle's show. I've hit the button. The music's playing. I'm not telling you to stop. I'm telling you to wrap it up. But, you know, some people just can't take the hint. And, you know, you just got to be just straight out frank with them. You got to be blunt to them so that they fuck off and you can continue working. But the other thing is, too, is that other fat guy, both the Butterballs. I should really start, like, to the people. I don't know if it's a good idea to make up nicknames at work to make fun of certain people. But there's at least one other person I work with who we both have a mutual dislike of these two guys. And I'm thinking about calling them the Butterball Brothers. What do you think about that nickname? You people in the chat, you tell me whether you think that that's a good nickname or not for these two guys at work, the Butterball Brothers. Because they're almost identical in appearance. It's really strange. It's just their hair color. That's really the determination of who's who, is their hair color. But they're both fat, really fat, slightly shorter than I am with these big bushy beards. But yeah, that's the nickname I came up, the Butterball Brothers. The butter golems, they're too fat to be golems. The Super Butterball Brothers. That's hilarious. That's great. The Super Butterball Brothers. Oh, man. Yeah, literal dwarves. I mean, even dwarves are stocky. These guys are just fat. In any case, yeah, I think that's one of the downsides, like I said earlier, is the amount of normies that I work with. It's insufferable. There's this one guy who is a supervisor who I work with who's like super into Marvel. And it's like he asked me, he's like, hey, have you seen any of the recent Marvel movies? And I saw one of them not that long ago. I don't even remember which one it was. But I was like, nah, I haven't, sorry. Even though that was a lie, because I just did not want to talk about it. Yeah. So I missed a bunch of super chats, so I gotta roll back. Diddly Dueler says, collections of the past are gonna miss you on Twitter. Oh, based one. I think I already read that. And Super or a Roe Crusader asked me to do that anecdote that I just told. Get says, if you are a millennial or Gen Z Chad, you sure aren't going to be a soldier or cop. Well, that's a video that I really ought to make. I've made a commentary about what are they called? Refugees and shit. Like the people that are being resettled all over the country and shit. More than just Afghanistan, even though it's very pertinent to talk about. But just like people in Buffalo who constantly come up on the news like, oh, these people from Pakistan or wherever are revitalizing the area. It's like, no, they're not. No, they're not. They don't have any money. They don't have any skills. They barely speak English. They're not revitalizing shit. Because all the white people left this state. They left Buffalo. So what are these random freaking poorly educated freaking penniless third worlders gonna fucking do? So I made a commentary about that. At some point I gotta edit it down and upload it. But one of the commentaries I need to make is one of the things that I see doing my job is that I interact with every once in a while, because of my job, new enlistees. So I've interacted with a bunch of new enlistees since doing my job. And it's not really the main focus of the job, but every once in a while it's something I have to do, is work with new enlistees. And I just want to shake the shoulders of these kids. Like, are you legit retarded? Like, what are you fighting for? What are you signing up for? Why? Why are you enlisting in the military now? What is wrong with you? So that's one of the bad aspects of my job, is having to deal with these new enlistees. And it's like, they're like these totally aimless, like, vacuous, dead behind the eyes kind of people. And it's like, what is wrong with you? Sheep's to the slaughter. Let me just moo at you. But yeah, it's sad, man. And that's all I got to say. I know I have veterans and I have enlistees in my audience. Get out. Like, what are you doing? Do not go and fight for this fucking country at this point in time. Like, what are you fighting for? You're going to get used like fucking pawns on a chessboard with, like, you are pawns on the chessboard while the fucking pigeon is playing. If you get that reference or that metaphor, like, what are you fucking doing? But yeah. Soldier or cop, if you have enough self-respect, it's not the noble job it once was, Getz says. Cop, I don't know. Cop is a little bit still up in the air. But soldier for sure. Like, I have no idea what you are doing signing up at this. Enlisting right now. I don't understand what you're doing. You're literally just suicidal, I suppose, for nothing. You know, you're literally overseas fighting for gender studies programs in Afghanistan, and that is not ironic. Like, you are retarded. Durka says, for $15, can I get a crown, Lord Louis? No, sorry, you got to earn that yourself there, Durka. A crown cannot be given, it can only be earned, sir. And I skipped over one. Richard says, thoughts on the downfall of Cuomo. I talked about it earlier. I don't really have very many thoughts on it, other than now we have Kathy Hochul in charge. Like, she's failed herself in another position once again. And she's a pretty weak person to run against. So I would say the Republicans in New York, get your shit together, because she's definitely beatable. And Evan says, hey, Louis, let's talk about Howard Stern being a bitch on Twitter. I'm not on Twitter anymore, dude. I have no opinion of Howard Stern on Twitter. I'm not on Twitter anymore. But thanks for the 657 anyways. Let's see here. The dementia-addled, senile commander-in-chief who is likely deliberately running the United States into the ground because Beijing pays him to. Well, in that Revolver article I linked, they literally spell out how the Chinese government is doing the exact opposite of everything we're doing. Like, outside of some tyrannical measures that we're doing here, China is literally doing everything that is opposite to us. They are antithetical to us. And they're a serious country. And that's the difference that I was making on Twitter, which I got accused by a whole bunch of people of being, like, sympathetic to China or saying that China's based or whatever other bullshit that they're reading into my statements. It's like, no. My entire point is that other nations across this world, like Hungary and others, take their nation seriously. They take civilization seriously. They're taking their role in the government as statesmen seriously. We do not, and that is the goddamn difference. It's not about, oh, China-based? You know, people are fucking stupid. That's all I gotta say about that. I guess Afghans didn't want to be Amazon serfs while their women get diss them on OnlyFans. I guess that's why so many fit fighting age men clung to airplanes instead of picking up their weapons laying around. I mean, it's the whole argument of like, oh, we need to bring these people in because they're so vulnerable. It's like, yeah, they're treacherous. Like, we were paying them for decades and giving them as many armaments as we could to fight, and instead they just threw their guns down or handed them over to the Taliban and are now looking to get in here and get Gibbs. It's like these people are, by and large, utterly treacherous, and we're bringing them in by the hundreds of thousands. It's like, yeah, okay, let's see how this works out. So yeah, I just got to say that if you want Louis Le Vau's stated position on Afghan refugees, leave them behind, fuck the foreigners. And I had a bunch of people give me shit about that on Twitter. It was one of the last tweets I put out that may have been one of the ones that got me taken down, was when I said fuck foreigners as it relates to the so-called, refugees from Afghanistan. I stand by that statement. We are importing hundreds of thousands of utterly treacherous people. Barbarians. Treacherous barbarians. Fuck them. If they are going to get genocided, it's by their own. For their treachery. We should leave them behind. Fuck them. And I want to hear a goddamn argument. An actual argument to the if you disagree with me. I want to hear it. I don't want special pleading. I don't want, emotional spastic nonsense. I don't want equivocation or anything else about my actions or my morals or anything. No. Argument, please. Argument. I want to hear it. Because I'm not being given that at all. Dan says, I've been in the National Guard for less than 10 years. If I'm reading that correctly, which I think I am. I'm refusing the vaccine in hopes of getting a quick administrative general discharge. Going to have to do my best Oster performance to not let them know that it's actually what I want. F this noise. Yeah, I would say, Dan, to you, if I had to offer a suggestion, you don't need to be over the top. You don't need to be deceptive. Just flat out say that you don't want to do it. That, no, I'm not getting the vaccine. I'm not doing it. Like, that has been so far, like, I've seen other people do other things as it relates to my job, and just saying no And if they give you an option, like there was a survey that got put out by the government itself, like the government itself put out a survey to all employees of multiple different agencies, one of which is the one I work for. And they basically said, are you vaccinated? Do you plan on being vaccinated? And I said no and no. And that puts me on a list. And that was all they asked. And I haven't gotten, no one's told me I'm bad or anything else. Like, that's all they want to know is whether you've been vaccinated or not. And if you say yes or no, they don't show any like, or like nothing, no reaction. Just stone-faced. So it's been fairly professional. I don't really have much to really complain about as it relates to that aspect. And give me a second, and I'm going to fix something really quick in the stream. There we go. Just taking care of a nuisance. So yeah. You just have to do that, I would say. I mean, I don't know your exact circumstance because technically I'm not really sure what the National Guard falls under. It's obviously public sector, but I don't really know what it would actually fall under. I'm a federal employee. That's what I am. But I don't know what National Guard. Isn't that a state thing? So don't you technically work for whatever state? I can't really speak to that, but that would be my suggestion. Would be don't be theatrical. Just straight up say, I'm not doing it. I'm not going to get the vaccine. I don't plan on doing it. No. That's my answer. And that's just be frank. That's really all you have to be, and that's been accepted on my end. The Gut says, how many of your new enlistees are ditzy young women taking their thirst pics in their uniforms? None. I haven't really seen any. Like, it's mostly guys. I've only seen a few girls that are really just kind of like plain Janes, like suburban girls. Like, those are the girls that I've seen that have been enlistees, have been like plain Janes. It's a lot of like plain-looking guys and plain-looking girls, like nothing very remarkable about any of them. Most are white, but there's a minority that are not. And I don't know what the fuck they're fighting for. If you are a parent and you are advocating your kids go join the military at this time, you are fucking stupid. And you're a bad parent. So yeah. That's pretty much... I think I've gotten everyone's. I don't think I missed any. Hopefully not. So yeah, I'm not really sure if there's anything going on other than that at the moment. I could try to check Gettr, or Gettr, because that's where I'm on. If you want to follow me on Gettr. Hopefully I put that in the description of this. Let me, I'll click on the video really quick to see if I have that in the description. You can hear my voice again. Sorry. Bit unprofessional, but I have to do it. Oh, I haven't. Oh, see, I apologize, guys. My mistake. I will put that in the description, hopefully right now, and hopefully it doesn't fuck up things. Gettr. Gettr. And I'll get rid of Twitter and replace that with Gettr again. Sorry, I thought I linked this in other videos, but I guess not. So I apologize for not linking this before, guys. Okay, hopefully that didn't just fuck the stream. Because once you get a stream going, you're not really supposed to alter it. It's in the description now, though. So yeah, let me actually go on Gettr, and I'll see if there's anything that has come up in the news. Yeah, just the vaccine thing. Yeah. The only other news story that's pretty major recently is some weird thing that's going on in Brazil. There's some kind of crazy ass shit going on in Brazil. Like their Supreme Court's out of control or some shit. Like their Supreme Court had the guy that runs Gettr, like this guy, this sort of like pudgy, weird looking guy, not to insult him too much. He's just, to me, he looks kind of weird. But the guy who like started Gettr got arrested by the Supreme Court in Brazil. And eventually he's like, okay, why did he get arrested? And they're like, okay, you're free to go. It's like, what the fuck? So I don't know what the hell's going on in Brazil right now, but like their Supreme Court is doing crazy shit. And Bolsonaro's like, fuck all of you, I'm basically, call me Kaiser, like, or some shit now. And I gotta say that you can say whatever, you can say that, Bolsonaro's like a dictator or some shit. But, the guy's name's Jason Miller. That's the guy that got arrested. He went to Brazil for some reason, and it was like to meet up with Bolsonaro and his like son or something. And he just got arrested by the Supreme Court for no reason. And he pretty much, like, he just like, okay, why did I get arrested by you guys? And so they just let him go. As soon as he asked a question, they just let him go. And now Bolsonaro's like, basically, I guess he's announced that he's no longer recognizing the Supreme Court, or at least some rhetoric to that effect, that he's no longer, recognizing the Supreme Court as legitimate. And I gotta say that you can call him a dictator if you want to, but it appears to be that the fucking Brazilian Supreme Court is, in fact, illegitimate. Because they're literally arresting random, I think, Americans. I'm not sure where Miller is. I assume he's, American, but they're arresting random politically connected Americans for no reason. And it's like, yeah, that's like straight up the hallmark of illegitimacy, is that you're arresting people without charges. So, and you're a court. How the hell are you arresting people? So, all I'm saying is that if it comes down to, the Bolsonaro junta or the Supreme Court of Socialists, I'm going with Bolsonaro, all right? I can't really speak to, I know Baczynski, I'm not sure if he's in here, is our resident fucking Brazilian. But all I'm going to say is that I'm on sign Bolsonaro. I'm on the side of democracy being overrated. That's my opinion. And I don't say that because, alt-right. I'm saying that because, no, Socrates is my favorite philosopher, and democracy is what killed him. So, democracy is not a god. Democracy is, in many ways, a very bloated, inefficient, and crap system that is prone to corruption. So, I'd rather have something that is, in many ways, a more codified republic, like a republic that takes itself pretty goddamn seriously, than our bloated shit democracy that is accelerating into the fucking ground, that is steering itself into the fucking ditch, and is thinking it's going to win wars by promoting feminism and gender studies programs. Like, America is a joke at the moment. But yeah, what's funny is that the other side, our enemies, our opposition, goes off about our democracy and all this other shit. They're democratic socialists. These people, our enemies are democratic socialists. They want to they want to fortify elections so that they can take power and then eliminate democracy. And set up socialist, committees. That's our opposition in whole cloth. They're not pro-democracy. They're not Democrats. They're not in favor of the public voice. They're not populists. They are not populists. It is our side that is sort of in a very low IQ fashion populist, quote unquote. I'm not a populist, and I've said that many times. I am a nationalist. I recognize that our faction is always going to be in the minority. So I am not a populist. I'm not here to win over the most amount of people possible. I know that is not possible. So I am not a populist. I am a nationalist. And our enemies are also not populist. They are very clearly elitists. They are aristocrats. People who see themselves, they're technocrats. People who see themselves as the masters of the universe. These people hate the average everyday person. They hate them. They are anti-populist, if anything. So when it comes to all their bullshit about democracy, it is very paper thin to see through. It is a facade that in every way is just a joke that everyone with any shred of sense has to realize is not true. And so when they talk about elections, they talk about our democracy, they are democratic socialists. They want to fortify their way into power and then eliminate the electoral process, or render it in such a fashion that El Presidente always wins his next election. So, yeah, I just get sick of the fucking democracy fucking rhetoric. I've had enough. Let's see here. Long time no see, Louis says Cheese. Cheese, are you a character from The Wire? Did you hear about Chris Chan getting arrested? Yeah, I never really kept up with whoever that guy was. He invented some, like, fanfic shit about, like, Pikachu and Sonic. I never followed any of that. I never cared. I've never been on, like, the whole, like, even Dank is guilty of this, of, like, that guy in Germany who's, like, this weird, like, shut-in weirdo dude that lives in some squalid shithole. Like, the guy's, like, Dragon Lord or something. Like, I'm not really on board with, like, the lolcow thing. People who are, like, these weird, autist, strange people, like, I either despise them because they're freaks, or I feel sorry for them. Like, I pity them. So I really have a hard time getting on board with, like, the lolcow shit. I don't really like it. It just seems either, like, really, really mean-spirited, or it's, like, modern-day P.T. Barnum. Like, look at the freaks. And it's like, this isn't interesting. You know, it's either these people are dangerous schizoids and they ought to be in an asylum involuntarily, and if they're not that, they're these, like, sad sack fucking people that I feel sorry for. And I don't think it's fun to just, like, fuck with them. Like, I just don't get it, and I don't like it. In any case, where was I? Uh-oh. Rogue Crusader just linked an image. I'm going to have to look at that later, man, because I don't know what you're linking. Alright, I'll copy it on this screen. And, oh, god damn it. No. Alright, come on, quick. There we go. Oh, god damn it. I really don't want to click on this. I'm trying to copy it. Alright, paste, you fuck. What is this? Oh, I don't want to put this in the main screen because it's going to get me banned. It's that stupid fad thing, and it's the Mona character from Genshin Impact. So her showing her ass. That's fine. Thanks, Rogue Crusader, for 657. Also, what about Governor Kathy Hochul? What's up with New York lately? Nothing's really going on in New York. It's just the same as it's always been. Like, Kathy Hochul's just a continuation of the governor of Cuomo's administration. She's no different. She's just as crooked and incestuous in New York politics. She's a terrible politician. I've known about her for a long time, and I've always despised her. She's always just failed upward. I can't stand her. I haven't been there in a year, and as an ex-Long Islander, it looks like Clockwork Orange from Florida. Well, New York City's a fucking shithole. I've known several people, a few of whom I've met, IRL, who have moved. They all have moved from New York City. They're all wherever the fuck. They're in bumfuck wherever. And it's either for work reasons or money reasons or family reasons. Like, they all have their reasons for why they left. But everyone that I know from New York City is gone. What's my opinion on Anders Manuel Lopez Obrador and Mexico succumbing to feminist and social justice? Well, that's been true for a while, hasn't it? The Get says, since you brought up The Wire, did you hear that Michael K. Williams just died? Yeah, I did. That's very sad news. He apparently died of a drug overdose, which I don't find to be that unlikely. I think he did have drug problems for a while. So that's sad. I honestly liked him better in, what is it? Boardwalk Empire than I did in, he was Omar in The Wire. I liked him better in Boardwalk Empire as Chalky White. Each show had its problems. I didn't like the fact that he was like he had SJW'd by whatever the guy's name was that did The Wire. Like, he got tokened as being a fag in that show. And I didn't like that. It was really forced and stupid. And that was from the writer, who's like he was a proto SJW. And in Boardwalk Empire, he was more of like an actual man's man gangster, and so that's why I liked him better in Boardwalk Empire. He was a pretty decent actor. Do you know anything about Prussia, the German state that formed the German Empire nation? You should read the book, The Iron Kingdom by Christopher Clark. It shows a better system than the U.S.-led liberal democracy that it pushed on the world. I honestly don't know a decent amount about European history. Like, I didn't even know until like a few years ago that there was like a so-called French Empire. Like, I had never known that. I thought like France was pretty much localized to its colonies and like the landmass that has existed since basically medieval times as being France. I had no idea, like, they were taking over fucking countries and shit at some point, I think under Napoleon. Like, I had no idea about any of that until, like, a few years ago. I'm not really aware of most of, like, European history. Like, I know a decent amount about, elements of French history, a decent chunk of, like, British history, generally. I know a decent bit about Russian history, on like an amateurish kind of level. But in terms of like Germany and like Austria and like all the different sort of like Eastern Bloc countries and stuff like that, like I have no idea about any of them. Like I don't really know anything about their histories and that. So I don't really know that much about European history, and I don't really find it all that interesting. Like, I've been recommended videos by like YouTube historians on European history, and I find it really fucking dry. I don't know why people find it, like, really exciting, like, especially post-medieval studies. Like, post-medieval, European history, I find really fucking boring. But that seems to be everyone's favorite. Like, high medieval onward, like, everyone loves that shit, and I just find it really fucking boring. Because it's like noble houses that just go to war. Like, that's the history. Noble houses go to war, and then eventually they come up with fucking, diplomatic, agreements, and then because of them they go to war, and then welcome to the 20th century. That's European history right there. Endless wars. None of which are very fortuitous or do anything in the end. Like, all the lines just reset. So, yeah, I don't really find European history very interesting. Like, it's an endless bombardment of losing wars. Everyone loses their wars. There's no victors in European wars. They all just lose. Look at the United Kingdom and fucking France. Like, their history. It's just abysmal. It's like, we're going to war, you're going to war. We're going to war with each other, nobody wins, no one gains anything. It's like, it's honestly, European history is, what's the name of it, the guy that does The Price of Right? What's the name of the guy? Drew Carey. It's that line of his, like, welcome to European history, where, like, everyone fights in the wars don't matter. Like, nothing changes. It's stupid. I really don't find it interesting. The fashion, to me, that's really what it is about, is that it's a lot about, like, like medieval development of weaponry and the fashion and the culture, and like, you know, I'm German, therefore I find German history to be fascinating, or I'm Hungarian or Polish, therefore I find this to be fascinating. And as an American, I just find it boring as fuck. And a decent portion of American history is boring as fuck. So what I want to see is a French war or an English war where they actually gain something that they didn't eventually give up. That's what I want to see. Give me that. Give me a war from a European country where eventually they didn't just either lose or give up everything. And with America, it's like we can't give up these territories. It's like I wish to Christ we would give up some of this territory that we've earned through wars in America. Like, we can't give it up. We got all these bases all across the world that we refuse to do anything with. And, like, we have Puerto Rico and all these other these territories where they're nothing but a detriment to the United States. It is nothing but a detriment, where we had all these conflicts with all these like Puerto Rican nationalist terrorists and all this sort of fucking nonsense, and we have basically turned the entire Puerto Rican nation and all their people into fucking bovine gibbers, and now we're stuck with them. So I mean, all I can say to you Europeans, and I know that a decent chunk of my audience is European, I want you right now to petition your government to declare war on the United States and take Puerto Rico from us. Please! Okay, I will refund your super chats to you. Please take Puerto Rico from us. And I've had some interactions because of my job with Puerto Ricans, and my opinion on them has not gotten better. Let's just put it like that. Man. Oh my god, no, fuck the Philippines. Fuck all of these territories. You guys are all, everyone in this world is a fucking giver, and I don't want you here. We need to close the borders. We need to give away our territory. We need to build a massive, big, beautiful wall around every element of the United States, from coast to coast, top to bottom. One big, beautiful wall around all of it, and let no one else fucking in, and give away all of our foreign fucking territory, and possibly including Hawaii or Alaska. Fuck it. Just give it the fuck away if we can't get a wall around it, because we need to just make some kind of compromise. Because this world is full of fucking givers that want our goddamn money, and that includes all you goddamn Europeans. You're coming here, you just want gibs. And I'm just sick of it. In any case, where the fuck was I? Get says, nothing to impede progress. If you want to see the face of democracies, look out the window, Mr. House. Yeah. That's a very good line. Very good line by Geth. Picking up one of the elements of the writing of, it's New Vegas, right? Yeah. One of the good lines from New Vegas is the fact that despite, like, it used, like, at least with Obsidian, with, you know, people have a very, very, very biased view of New Vegas. It was a very fucking flawed game. But at least elements of the writing actually picked up on the fact that the fact of the matter is that America in that world was an utterly corrupt, run by evil people country that failed at the end and helped bring about the end of the fucking world. And it's like, why wouldn't you be skeptical of democracy in the new world, in the world that's left to you, in this wasteland, this post-apocalyptic wasteland? Who wouldn't be skeptical of democracy? It's to me, it's one of the failures of Bethesda. If they are the actual developer, because they're like the publisher too, but you know, they're writing in 4 and one other thing. It may have been 3. I can't remember which, but like I know American Krogan talked about it, where the own internal logic of their game doesn't make any fucking sense at all in terms of the narrative, where they try to promote the idea of, like, diversity is our strength, but, like, simultaneously, the fact of the matter is that one of the things that brought down the United States was the refugee policy of the United States. That we got overwhelmed by refugees. We ran out of resources. And that was one of the main reasons that brought about the apocalypse. And yet, afterwards, it's just a total non-factor at all. When it should absolutely be. And that's unfortunately one of the aspects that could, if you gave me the opportunity, I could make a decent, like a side storyline about that fact. That there is maybe there's racial honesty or animosity towards Asians in America. That while underground, racial animosity was created because it would naturally exist. If you and China are, like, hated enemies, and that they nuke and end the United States, they end the country, they end the population, they kill billions, you're gonna hate them. And it's gonna be on racial grounds. And I'm not saying that you use that in the story to say that it's a good thing, but it's a role-playing aspect to the game. That Asian people in the game, there should be animus against them. Because of the apocalypse. And there should be story aspects to that in the game. But race is something in the game that is totally fucking not touched. Other than aspects of the most recent games where diversity is good. And it's like, well, that doesn't make any sense in this universe. But yeah, unfortunately with Bethesda, Bethesda's a half-woke company. They're one of the big ones. It's a half-woke company. And I'll touch on that in the commentary I'll upload tonight on the Saints Row reboot. It just makes your writing worse, but you're stuck with it. But thanks for that good quote from Mr. House. Not just America, the NCR became bureaucratic shithole too. I'm not sure if Mr. House was talking about the NCR, America, or both. And that's probably the point. Yeah, it is. It honestly is him commenting on the NCR, because Mr. House is not in favor of the NCR. He's taking advantage of the NCR for his own purposes, but he's not in favor of the NCR. I'm pretty confident in that. The problem is Washington, D.C. Basically, Mr. House views them as controllable, unlike the Legion, who he views as uncontrollable, which is why he's opposed to them. The problem is Washington, D.C. wants to be gibbers because they don't pay for it, and it gives them more power. All the territories aren't the problem, it's D.C. policy. I agree, Glowy. But that's the difference, is that, the people there want to be part of the United States. They don't have, Puerto Rico has no economy. They have no actual movement anymore for independence. All the nationalists have been killed or bred out of existence. They're just straight up a gibber population now. And, all we can do is by some metric eventually cut them fucking loose. By any means, just cut them loose. But yeah, it is about power. And I can say that as an employee of the government, that it is about power. Entire agencies of the government exist because we have a Muslim population in the United States. I took some notes, and maybe I should bust them out eventually, but I should probably do a video of the notes I was taking while I was being trained. And it's just so evident that ever since 9/11, there are several agencies of government that just exist not because of the foreigners, that's why we have the CIA, but entire agencies exist because we have Muslims here. And I'm not exaggerating in the slightest. So, yeah, we import the threatening population to the native population, and then we create these trillion-dollar agencies to react to those people that we just imported. Wow. You know, that's all I can say. It's pretty transparent. That's all I'm gonna say. Yeah. All right. How long have we been going? An hour and 44 minutes. Yeah, we can go for a little bit longer. Is there anything else that there is to talk about? Gigi Evans says, anything that comes out of California is awful, including the NCR. I mean, the NCR is basically just sort of our version of America. It's basically a plutocracy. Like, that's pretty much what the NCR is that it's a plutocracy. But it's on the basis that if the NCR eventually has enough territory or enough power or enough technology, that it will basically reform itself into being something decent. Like, that's basically my understanding of how the people that support the NCR, it's how they see it. It's, you know, trying to get back to what America used to be. It's connecting to the old world, so there's like a nostalgic aspect to it, and that while it's corrupt now, it eventually will be good or closer to an ideal because we'll have X amount of territory, therefore that'll somehow change something. Which I don't really buy, but I will say that it seems like the NCR has a lot of, like, decent people that work for it. Like, there's a lot of more heroic characters that work for the NCR in comparison to other organizations. It seems like with other organizations, there's a lot more people who are either corrupt or evil or whatever. So it's probably just the writing being the writing for the sake of it. But the NCR seems fairly more innocuous than other organizations. Basically, a more evil version of the NCR is what the Brotherhood of Steel became in Fallout 4. But what's ironic is that I actually support the Brotherhood of Steel in Fallout 4. Like, they're actually pretty goddamn based in Fallout 4. And if I was in that setting, I probably would be with the Brotherhood of Steel, especially that version of it. And I today, like right now, would agree with their doctrine of what they're trying to do, which is we're for order, we're against chaos, we hate the freaks and the mutants, and we're going to kill them all and restore order. And if we want something, we're going to fucking take it. And eventually, if we come to it, we'll let you know that we're in the process of taking it. So yeah, the Brotherhood of Steel in Fallout 4 was pretty fucking based. It's all the other organizations that were kind of stupid in Fallout 4, which is too bad. That was one of the bad sides of the writing of Fallout 4. Was that all the other, like the railroad, they didn't make any sense at all. The Institute, even though there's aspects of it that I like, I didn't really understand what their motivation was. Like, and that's not a good thing. It's not good for me to put like hundreds of hours into a game and not understand what the motivation, like I understand what the railroad's motivation is, even though I think it's stupid. But the Institute, like, I don't even know why they're doing what they're doing. And what was the Minutemen? They weren't too bad. They're kind of like the NCR in some ways, except for like a libertarian, like wet dream. So, you know, the Minutemen aren't that bad. It's just kind of like a goofy, overly idealized sort of thing. But I'm not really opposed to the Minutemen, like sort of aspect to it. It's less realistic than what I think would be necessary to win. Somebody asked in the chat, Stormcloak or Imperial. I think honestly, if you were to look at the question of Stormcloak or Imperial, I can't imagine that you can really make a very solid moral argument for the Imperials. Like, there are Imperials that are obviously well-intentioned, that are doing their best under the bad circumstances of losing a war against the Elves. I forget what the faction's called, of, like, the Elves. There's, like, a government that they have that's, like, leading everything. I don't remember what it's called. But the Elves have a government that went to war against the humans, the Imperials. The Imperials lost, and because of that, I think the Nords rebelled, I think is what the timeline is. Thalmor, thank you, chat. Thalmor is what they're called. And it's, like, not all elves. It's, like, the elven government. And, the Stormcloaks are Nordic nationalists, and they also want to worship Talos, who's been banned by the elves. And the downside of the Nords is that they're racist against the Dark Elves, or whatever they're called in Elder Scrolls. Like, they're racist against the Dark Elves. And they don't like the Khajiit for probably good reason. And I think there's one other, the Argonians. Is that the other race they don't like? I think, are those it? It's like the Dark Elves, whatever they're called, the Khajiit, and the Argonians. No, I thought it was the Khajiit too. I thought they disliked Khajiit too. Ulfric is a Thalmor agent? I don't know. Khajiit innocent. Oh, that's good. See, people rag on Skyrim, but I think a lot of people actually liked it. I think a lot of people like Skyrim, and they thought it was fun. And I think that's why the memes are still around. Because if the game wasn't fun and people didn't enjoy it, I don't think the memes would still be around. In any case, let's see here. Kendrick says, when are you going to found your official church? Tax-free donations and state protection sound pretty good. I know I would. Well, thank you, Kendrick. Glowy says, I don't think democracy works too well now because you are forced to vote for DC politicians from Harvard 1 versus DC politician from Yale 2. They believe 90% of the same stuff that screws over Americans. Anti-democratic factions and fallout would be everywhere. Yeah, I agree with that, Glowy. I agree with that. I completely agree with that, Glowy. And I would say that Brotherhood of Steel is one that is not democratic. It's like a military faction. Like, that's how they view things. It's just purely hierarchical. And as does the Legion. The Raiders see it the same way. And they're not really a faction, but they are Raiders. Some of the tribes view it the same way. Most of the tribes, I'd say, view it the same way. It would be everywhere. Because not only is that the natural inclination of humans is hierarchy, and whatever variation of form that takes, whether it's a tribe or it's a gang or it's a military group, it's all hierarchy. That's natural to humans. So democracies or republics is just not natural. And considering what happened in the apocalypse, more people would be reflective of the idea of creating democracies and stuff like that. I think a lot of people would be far more hostile. But that isn't to say necessarily that people would be anti-Enclave. I don't really want to spend too much time on lore, but I think that the Enclave, with the appeal of President Eden, I actually think that that would appeal to a lot of people. Because it's appealing to nostalgia and, like, benevolent government. Government's going to help you. Government's going to oversee you. Like, you know, I'm acknowledging the errors of the past, but I'm the president now, and I'm so good, and I'm an old boy, and all this sort of thing. Like, I think that definitely would appeal to a lot of people in that setting. So I think the Enclave would actually do well in that kind of setting, except for, hopefully, in real life, the fucking... I mean, it could be, because our government is in many ways like the Enclave in that it's suicidal. It doesn't seem too interested in actually winning. Patrick says the GOP is regressing back to 2012 with this Afghanistan debacle. Hannity has been endlessly repeating military talking points designed to justify us going back without actually saying that we should go back. It's got my mom upset for reasons she doesn't get. Yeah, I see shit like that too. I know exactly what you're talking about, Patrick. Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of Republicans are regressing, but I see a lot of Republicans calling out other Republicans saying, fuck neocons and fuck neoconservatism. Don't do it. And if you are, you're a fucking fool. So I would say that is happening and it's dismaying, but I don't see it lasting long term. I just don't. It's not your fault, Louis. Fallout 4 was more hollow than hollow. Its only saving grace, I think you meant to say, was that smooth FPS style mechanics and the companions. Yeah, there is a decent few companions in that game. One of the downsides is I'm currently playing Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous, and I gotta say, man, half-woke company, a lot of shitty companions and shitty dialogue. Not a recommend at the moment that you buy that game. You've heard of that game, Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous. Not necessarily a recommendation at this point, because there's a lot of shitty dialogue in that game. And yeah, we could watch that video by Sargon. I just gotta plug in my headset, I guess. Kind of have enough talk. The 15 minutes we've been talking about fucking Elder Scrolls and Fallout. What's all this nerd talk? It's my stream. I'll determine what is and isn't nerd talk on here. All right. I think that's actually what we want to set it to. Let's see here. No, it's an FP. It's like a D&D FPS or a D&D role playing game. Oh, it's over whatever top down RPG. It's kind of mixed. That's all I can say, is that I haven't necessarily given it up because they have made some improvements to the game, but I don't know. I just have like a really mixed opinion of it at the moment. I'm only so far into it yet. So I will say that Baldur's Gate 3, is it? Is that the most recent one that's still... All I can say for them is they really need to step it up. Fucking finish this game, please. Because Baldur's Gate 3 is actually a fairly decent game thus far. They seem to have everything going for them in that they're fixing the game as it is. They're going back and fixing old things. The dialogue's pretty good. The characters are all pretty interesting and good. The voice acting's good. The stylization is good. It's all very nice looking. Like, it has every one of the things that you could ask for going for it. All the classes are pretty good. None of them feel useless. Like, that's one of my big things about RPGs, especially anything around Dungeons and Dragons based shit, is that so many of the classes suck. But yeah, my one criticism of Baldur's Gate 3 is they need to step it up. Step it up. Get this finished. Alright, hurry the fuck up. It's been out since like 2019 or 2018, and they still are in Chapter 1. Let's go. Hurry it up. Nords for Empire says, the Stormcloak don't like anyone who isn't a Nord. Also, if you read the lore, the Thalamor are using the Civil War to weaken the Empire. For the next war, Empire is really the best choice if you got to get into the lore. I don't know about that. The Empire seems really weak in in Skyrim, from my playthrough of it. The Empire seems like really weak. Megan Max says, "Hey Louis, got a job since you've been gone. Just got off the Lars Larson radio show. Asked him why the Republicans don't use 4D thinking example, analoging the fact that the Ilhan Omar committed immigration fraud. Why not revoke her status and deport her?" He agreed. I'm not really sure if I know who Lars Larson is, but yeah, it's pretty much that kind of like real politic thinking that is necessary, because even if you don't succeed in that sort of thinking, you distract and you waste the time of your enemies, and that is a positive development. If you can basically throw everything at your enemies to waste their time, so long as you're not using up too much of your own time and resources, that's good for you. It keeps them off, keeps them off balanced, unsure about, like, they can't anticipate what you're going to do. And while you're doing that, you can actually put forward ideas and an agenda that you do actually want to accomplish, and that is meaningful. So I agree. Glowy says, "You know what I wish was politicians would look at me the way that they look at refugees and foreign nationals, and were willing to spend trillions to help improve my life. But that's the dream. Federal government needs pay pigs." Yeah, our government has two tiers. American citizens are pay pigs, and foreign nationals are literally like Ubermenschen. Like, they are the superhumans that they are designed to benefit. And that's the way it is. That's my employer. What can I tell you? Anyways, let me get on YouTube and we will watch the Sargon video together. Go in my subscriptions here and we'll find it. Apparently, fucking Sargon just did on Lotus Eaters, just did 12 reasons you're single, a single woman, and it's your fault. Based. He did a video not that long ago about spinsters that was really based. I forget exactly what it was about and all that, but it was just like, yeah, you guys are insufferable and it's your own fault, that sort of thing. So I was like, yeah, based. Here it is. It's 18 minutes long. All right, let's put this up. Oh, actually, we're not getting any audio here. There we go. Let's try to get this.
I noticed that I've probably been the most aggressive questioner throughout this series of events, and I can see lots of faces who are like, right, just open your mouth. So I won't be taking questions at the end. No, I will, obviously. I just want to say...
that's right. Didn't they have an event at some place in the UK? Didn't they just do an event of some kind?
Hey, all of the critiques that I was giving through the thing was all done with love, because I think that it's important that we be inclusive, and it's necessary not to delude ourselves in an echo chamber and think that if we can all agree to a bunch of things with like-minded people, that means these things are correct and true and robust and will survive challenge outside of the echo chamber. We need to make sure that that's the case, and I hope it's all been understood in that way.
I was gonna say, fucking, I'm trying to remember who to compare him to, that basically, like, really thinned out, but look at how thin he is now. Look at how thin our man Carl is here now.
So let's begin with letters.
This kid, I don't know if this really is Carl Benjamin. This might be some sort of like alien or something that's taken over his body. It's a vampire.
Not even joking. Whose letter's this, Lander? Right, so he's the first guilty person of agreeing with me on letters. Who's next? This was really nice. And I think I'm just going to... No. I'm not going to read from it, but I just want it as a prop, because as Mark pointed out, there is a... Where's Mark? Hello. Right, why are you over there for a second? Right, so there is a genuine value in the physical thing, right? There is. And your talk on abstraction was fantastic, because this actually is meaningful to me, you see. Right? It's easy.
It might be true. He is a synth. Carl the synth.
Someone, to fire off a message or an email or something like this. But this is something that takes down and actually takes time and effort. There's no backspace when you're handwriting a letter. And then afterwards, I have the physical thing. I've got to be concerned about it. Now it's a piece of property that I own and has been given to me with meaningful intent. And I value that. I think that's important. I'm not going to read it for it because it's just a very polite and nice letter, and I'll be in contact. And it happens to also synergize with the beginning of my speech. Now, I added this after I'd written this speech because my nan had died a few months ago. She was 91, died of cancer, so it's pretty understandable. But after her passing, we discovered that she kept loads and loads of personal mementos from my father and his 5 brothers when they were growing up. And one of the things that she had kept is the first letter he had written home when he joined the RAF at 16. And I couldn't get over it.
I honestly think Kevin Smith might have been the person I'm thinking of, but I don't actually want to say that because that's honestly kind of an insult.
Because it was literally about a day or so after I'd watched AA's Vision for the Right. And I'm just going to read it to you, right? So the letter's dated on the 9th of October, 1974. So 5 years before I was born. And he was sent to Swinderby in Lincoln. So you can imagine what Lincoln looked like in 1974. Mark knows exactly what we're doing. You've lived there. All right. Dear Mum, Dad, and the boys, my father of 1 of 6 brothers, I have arrived safely. As soon as about 60 of us arrived, we all had haircuts, received bedding, and some bits of uniform such as denims, jumper, and a belt. Also a ground sheet and 2 padlocks. As soon as I arrived, I decided I was going to chuck it all in and come home, but as I write this, I realise I'm just a little bit homesick and will try and stick it out. I hope I improve. I miss you all and the people of Wiltshire. I hope you're all right. I'll write again pretty soon. Lots of love, David. So I was touched by this because I could hear what Academic Agent was talking about when he was talking about Trumpton. Like, I miss the people of Wiltshire. He's in Lincoln. How different could it have been? Especially in 1974. But the thing is, to him, it was significantly different because he didn't know these people. They were all new. It's a new environment, even though it would have looked just like where he had left. And so I thought I'd written this before I added that, just so you are aware. And I thought I would just go through AA's positive vision of the right and discuss it, because I think it was very interesting as a thought experiment, and especially the reaction to it was most amusing, and I think I can explain it. So the purpose is to build a self-sustaining local community with traditional values, what he had previously called milkman localism. And I really think he's on something with that. I think it's a good term, because it... within it, it kind of harmonizes the small, quaint, local nature of life, where everything is reliable and normal and habitual. You know what the next day is going to bring because it was just like the previous day. And this is what young people find cloistering. This is what they're trying to escape when they get to the city. There are new experiences. But it's important that these places exist because they need a place to come back to after they've gone and made all their mistakes, after they've got the scars on their soul, after doing whatever you have all done in a big city in your own time. Yeah, I can see you smirking. Exactly, you know what I mean. The assumptions he's building on is that community is good, local is better than national or global, sustainable is better than wasteful, and traditional is better than modern. Now, there are going to be ways of criticizing these assumptions, but for now, for the purposes of this, we can accept them all, they're fine. The goals are, of course, to prevent nomadism, prevent social and technological disruptions, and he gives his example in the British children's TV show, Trumpton. Now, just to be clear, the mimetic synergy of this is amazing, isn't it? How is it that it just happens to be called Trumpton? What are the odds, right? For anyone who doesn't know, this is if it's a small local town, you all saw the video. Everything's small and local, but the important thing is that everyone has a place, and everyone is reasonably satisfied with their lot in life. The people belong there. It's a good vision, and one worth appreciating for its aesthetic merits. It's a vision of life of pleasant habit, lived out in relative comfort by people who have a proper place in the world. Where should they be other than where they already are? And then AA decides to theorize about this. To make a theoretical Trumpton, it requires him to freeze it in time and place. He must crystallize this thing that is a living organism, which naturally will kill it. He felt it must require a command economy, top-down planning, social engineering, retardation of technology, mass censorship, control of population movement, and a totalitarian local government. A form of miniaturized socialism that takes on the worst aspects of fascism. So why did your audience and everyone else who is of sound mind think that this was a bad idea? Well, I'm going to invoke Roger Scruton's views on the myths of civilizations. Now, it's important to remember that when we say myth, we don't mean actually fictional constructs. These aren't falsehoods, they're parables. They are reflections of potential realities that can and do exist. They're stories about how a civilization should be run. He divides it into the vanguardist versus Magna Carta myth perspective. Vanguardism is, of course, the control of society from the top down by a class of managerial elites, whereas Magna Cartaism is the view that legitimacy comes from the bottom up and people should be able to manage their own affairs. What the conservatives would be trying to conserve cannot be...
I'm probably just going to speed this up a little bit, just so we can get through it in a timely fashion.
...produced in the vanguard fashion. The people needed to maintain the spirit of the town, won't be happy, free, and prosperous. They are a product of the Magna Carta myth. They won't love where they live. They will feel tyrannized by it, and they will come to despise it and seek to escape it. This will destroy the very essence of what Trumpton was meant to be about in the first place. It's meant to be a happy place that people can call home. Vanguardism is the herald of socialism, and no form of socialism can produce a Trumpton. A managerial class of any kind cannot create a Trumpton. This excludes communists, fascists, or national socialists. Anyone who has a big idea on how society should be run will fail, because Trumpton is the product of many little ideas on how very small parts of the world should be run. Small business owners and local communities, independent-minded people being in charge of their own destinies, working with their neighbors to achieve the same effect. AA's managerial Trumpton is the right-wing version of the communist utopia. So to steelman the communist position, I never thought I'd say that. AA's, the communist drive is to provide man with all the necessary resources and provisions to live a full and bountiful life. But the problem with this vision is it misses the point. The end result is that he's free to do anything, but that's not what human freedom really means. What it really should mean, at least to us, is to be free to be a human being, to live within telos that is bequeathed to us by our parents and grandparents, to have a flourishing life in a way that has meaningful connections to other human beings. And you have to be a certain kind of person to achieve that. That kind of person can't be created through managerial vanguardist politics. And we can just look at the contemporary examples, just the popular figures of the vanguardist left online. Self-hating, heroin-addicted woke lords like ContraPoints, who despise their own communities. Post-abortion, post-war, childless alcoholic women like Lindsay Ellis. Millionaire hypocrite man-children.
Woo, that last one, woo!
Socialism for me, but not for thee, like Vorsh and Hassan Piker. Or the brainless bottom feeders who don't have the wit to understand the contempt with which everyone else holds them, like the serfs. And this is just their YouTube propaganda megaphones. Collectively, the woke left have so much money and cultural capital at their disposal. But are any of them living their best lives? They, of all of the people that I can think of, must have surely learned by now that money can't buy happiness. Instead, the woke left are a bunch of drug-addicted eunuchs, stricken with self-professed mental illnesses that they proudly display to the world.
Yeah, it's all true.
Completely miserable with their lot, and yet still promoting the lifestyle that led them to becoming the 41 percenters.
Yeah.
Look at the absolute state of them. And then remember that they want that for you and your children.
Yep.
They are stuck in Plato's cave. They point at the shadows on Twitter and cry that woman is a featherless biped. However, theirs is a bad definition of everything, and their shadow world of theory turns out not to be the truth. Man is a rational animal, and is the animal part that has long been neglected by the left. We have to accept that humans have a biological, meaning habitual, nature, and it's this habitual nature that is being spoken to in Trumpton. This is why traditionalism always finds murky waters in theory, because habits are acts taken. They are not ideas reflected upon. One does not need theory for tradition, one needs only to repeatedly do something. So perhaps this is a better way of living that we can provide to a person that has meaning. As Trumpton can only be constructed by the certain kind of person, that certain kind of person who feels that they authentically belong somewhere. This kind of belonging found in the meaningful relationships to individuals and places, named things, not abstract categories. And so a positive vision of the right must include the drive to become the kind of people who make a Trumpton, and be in the kind of place a Trumpton exists. And it actually means becoming these local heroes that Mark was speaking of and embodied so well, who form the social fabric of their little local community, and who make the world work without requiring outside intervention. If you want this to actually exist, to reinforce the points that almost everyone was making, you have to do it. Trumpton is, of course, the product of the Magna Carta myth, and as I've said, it requires us to change. And it's important to remember that change is the one...
I assume, like, this is one of the things that Carl wanted me to discuss, like, what I thought about this. And it's like, I can see where he's coming from, and that I agree in the idea that that's probably a good thing for someone to do, is to be, like, a local hero, like... I'm going to go out and become a volunteer firefighter and that sort of thing. But I don't actually think that that is in any way, like, it does not inhibit the left that you do that. Like, you're basically making the argument for either living your best life, which is fine. That in and of itself is a fine argument. But the fact of the matter is that when it comes to the politics that we are engaged in now, like, there is no other means by which to avoid being dragged down by the leftists but to fight them. Like, that is the only means by which that you are not going to be dragged down, because eventually they're going to take over that fire department, and then you're going to get fucking shit canned. You know, I'm going to become a local charity worker. I'm going to work for this NGO. They're going to take over that NGO. They're going to fire you. They're going to take over your NGO and fire you, even if you started it. Like, I agree with this idea of being a good idea for, like, the individual to do for themselves and their community. But it's like, it's not different to what we're currently doing. And it in no way inhibits our enemies from continuing the march forward to destroy us all. So... I'll just say that. I think this would be a good message for being a virtuous person and living a fulfilling life with meaning. I agree with that. But I don't see this as a political answer to the current... like, if we're looking for a solution to modernity, I don't think this is a solution to it.
An immutable constant of reality. It has to be accounted for in Trumpton. But it is not that change is bad. Change comes in two forms, destructive and constructive. Change that aligns with the animating principles of Trumpton is nothing to be feared, whereas the assault on Trumpton by the vanguardists would ruin it utterly. And I think that the positive vision of the right must be the appeal to become these pillars of the earth, to be those people whom can be relied upon in a crisis. As Poe was saying, this gives you a legitimate moral claim to a place and a way of life. And if the woke can't understand this, the regular person will. The best the managerial elite can do to achieve this is just ensure that outside forces don't excessively affect Trumpton, but not control Trumpton itself. And if we import foreign ideologies that seize absolute power in order to remake the world, then we'll have already failed. To do this, we must take our civilization seriously. We must understand who we are, what our essential nature is, what it is we do every day, because what AA is describing are merely the simple folk of the Shire, the yeomen of the countryside, the backbone upon which our entire civilization rests and always has, stretching back 1,000 years into myth and legend. And I really mean myth. Like, Britain has got a magical past. It's the envy of the world. Look at the way the foreigners look at us. They can't believe what we have here. And it's a narrative that interweaves heroic greatness with humble communities, that gives a place of honor from the highest king to the lowest peasant. And it will be quipped by some that the magic only works if you believe in it, though. Okay, because we can reverse that logic. If we believe in it, the magic works. These pioneering tribes from Germany and Ireland conquered Great Britain from the Romans and the Picts, and for 800 or so years they lived alongside and fought one another until their monarchies merged, and from this a great empire was born. And from the ashes of this empire, lost in glory, fighting an existential evil, we produced the modern world as we know it. If this was the story of any other indigenous culture, it would be easy to respect and cherish.
Yeah,
so
I see people in the chat making good points that effectively the only way that I mean, unless this is all building up to that point, but we only have a little bit of time left, so I don't think it is. But if Sargon is making this an argument to be, again, an individual virtue sort of argument, then fine, it stands by itself. But if this is an actual political argument, you're making an argument for separatism, which is not possible. Like, it's not possible to be a separatist in like a traditional community. It is not possible. Unfortunately, it's just not an option we have, and I've discussed this many times in the past, that if you do the balkanization or whatever, we're going to get rolled over. We're going to get crushed. We're going to get Waco'd and so on. That's what's going to happen.
Standard. It is not wrong.
And the bulk of the people who won't join us will not defend us.
Wrong for us to love our oikos, our home and our history, our families and our friends, and the place in which we live. We all have a part in this story, and we do not need to justify our way of life to communists. We do not care which category they are offended by today. It is not wrong to preserve this magical way of life, and no reasonable person would dare suggest otherwise. In my view, the only way that we can really win is by defeating and overtaking the dominant narrative, the left-wing narrative, from within its own paradigm. As with any war, final victory is only achieved by defeating the enemy on their own terms.
I agree with Kirnath in the chat. He says separatism is more or less retreating and delaying the inevitable. I absolutely agree. Eventually, it just speeds up the takeover of everything, the total solidification of those institutions in the hands of our enemies, and that eventually they will just show up and they will be in full fucking force, and we will have nothing.
The right, that means asserting the positive vision of our own civilization in a language that we do not yet have, that overtakes and flows through the paradigm of the left. As I said before...
I mean, again, it depends on... I'll probably have to ask him, like, what... Like, I understand... Are you just saying this as a means by which of living a personal life for the individual? And if not, you're going to have to further elaborate, because I'm not sure what you're getting at.
Well, doubtless say it again. This will be a generational endeavor, but we must see it through, despite the toil and hardship that will inevitably come our way. This is our civilization that is at stake, and we must not give it up. Thank you.
Again, based on that last line, it's not an argument for separatism, so I legit have a question of, like, what are you actually advocating? Because I don't know. Aside from being fulfilled and living a virtuous life, I don't understand what argument you're making, so I'm going to have to follow up with him on that, because he asked me to watch that speech, give him what I thought about it, but that's going to be my answers. I don't really understand. So yeah, good speech, but I'll have to clarify with him what he means. Glowy says, in order to stop the leftists, you must actively oppress them in every way. Not necessarily. It's basic physics. Unless the left is stopped and pushed back on, it will continue to do. They will continue to do what they do. But I disagree. It's not the only means by which to defeat them. One of the things that could ultimately be done is a defederalization of the federal government, which is to basically return power to certain institutions to the states. And in that way, it would greatly diminish the capacity of the leftists from tyrannizing right-wingers. You would see that happen in left-wing states, but it would no longer happen in right-wing states. So there would no longer be prosecutors and judges and courts and agents and all these people intervening in a state over hate crimes and all these other things. Like, if you just got rid of those institutions, or at least if you couldn't get rid of them, like, let's say the FBI, you just neuter them so that in order for them to, let's say, prosecute somebody for a hate crime, they have to hand it down to a state prosecutor. So the FBI can come up with as many cockamamie violations of the law that they want to, but they can't actually prosecute it through the U.S. court system on the federal government stage. Instead, they have to go through the state government of whatever state they're in. That would greatly diminish the power of certain institutions. And I would say that basically taking the tools up and wielding them against our enemies is something that we could do to certain degrees. But I would say definitely for universities, that would be probably something we want to do, is take over the loan system and take over the Department of Education and wield those institutions as weapons to basically prohibit all the things that we don't like. And the question is, well, that's going to violate free speech and that sort of thing, academic freedom. Well, then you just come up with a way of hiding that. Come up a way of keeping it out of the courts so that you can't actually have that be an issue. And I would say that there's a various means of doing that to prevent it from happening. All of the changes will eventually go to court, but there are definite means by which that we can actually change things. And one of the ways by which you could do this is declare a national emergency around student loan debt. There's a national emergency around student loan debt. Therefore, we're no longer giving out loans for gender studies degrees, philosophy degrees, all these different soft study degrees. And because of that, you severely limit the capacity for universities to continue this. And you can use the left's rhetoric and argument based around student debt to then justify cutting the universities. You can blame the universities for doing this. You can blame predatory lending, whatever rhetoric you can use, so long as you limit the capacity of left-wing intellectuals to spread their views. And you could use state power to do that. And it probably would be the most effective method to do it. But I don't think you could do that with everything. I don't think that in every way that's the one trick pony that you could use. That's the silver bullet, is just use state power. I don't think that that's the answer to everything, but there are means by which that we have to have power to defeat our enemies, that it's required. Yeah, so I'll have to talk with Sargon about this just to get a better idea of what he's talking about, but I would say that it sounds like in some ways he's making an argument for separatism, and I don't think that will work. Kieranot says that's populist rhetoric, Louis, which is why populist rhetoric works in tandem with nationalism. Effectively that is the rhetoric. It's false. because I don't care about student debt. I have student debt. I don't care. I made a decision. You made a decision. You have student debt. Guess what? You made a decision. No one put a gun to your head and made you go to college. And I have been telling everyone since graduating that college is a fucking scam and you shouldn't go. So I'm doing my best to inform others that they shouldn't go to college because it's a waste of time and money and it's a scam. So what needs to be done to get student debt under control is not more Gibbs, because that just inflates the costs even more. It is to restrict costs, and you do that by restricting what people can take loans on. Because if you're going to get an engineering degree and you have a degree in whatever the fuck that we're not importing people to do, unlike like programming or whatever, if you have a degree or if you go to a trade school, you can actually do something as a career and make a lot of money. But these useless degrees that radicalize people and turn them into leftist fucking stooges, the way to fucking defeat them is to use state power. Because if you take away their fucking money, then they got nothing. Yes, I agree with Bandit 6. The left has armies full of activists because the welfare state makes that possible. That's why they can always show up in large numbers to pressure governments. Folks on the right have jobs. Exactly. That is correct. One of the things that eventually we are going to have to do is go after the welfare system. And it's basically the argument of what happens first is that does the house of cards fall, or are we actually able to make reforms? And I'm never going to be on board with the people that are like accelerationists and that sort of thing, because I never want to take the chance that we lose in the end. And I think that that's kind of the consequence of accelerationism. You should never make a choice where you stand a decent chance at losing. The only time you gamble is when you know you're going to win. That's when you gamble, is when you know you're going to win. You don't gamble on a chance where you lose in the end. And that's why I'm not in favor of people that are on board with accelerationism. Even if there is going to be an end, we should all go down swinging. That should be how it goes. Rogue Crusader linked another video that's a cop video. I'm not going to get any cop videos for tonight, so thanks. I'll have a look at that later, Rogue Crusader, but I'm not going to do that tonight. Missed one. Louis advocates for doing what the left does, be nepotistic against leftist coaching, the reasons, and they didn't meet the standards or some BS. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Sorry. Uh, 2A Moron says, do you have an opinion on the FRT-15 trigger and ATF lawsuit? It turns a standard AR-15 rate of fire to full auto levels. I got one. It was made by a lawyer to follow the law perfectly. I'm way back at the start, so I hope you get this. Thanks. Well, thank you to a moron. I have not heard of that, unfortunately. $6.69 was his donation. Anyways, yeah. So it's Sargon's video is good, but I'll have to discuss it with him. He told me he wants to stream with me, but we'll have to set that up another time. I'm not sure when we could actually get around to doing that because I work so much. But I like to see if we can set up something to speak to one another. Welfare system is a very cunning beast to fight. Yeah, it is, because it's a self-perpetuating. That's one of the things about government, is that it's legit a it perpetuates itself. The government finds a reason to exist and to continue its mission. It's what I used to say about NGOs and charities, is that they have mission creep, that as soon as they accomplish what they set out to do, they find something else because they want to keep that money train rolling. And government is in many ways even worse. Like I said, eventually I'll take the notes I got when I was doing my training, and I'll do a video on that, because it's like a decent sheet, like a legal page full of notes regarding all the training I had, and all the things that it is implied to the training that he never touch on, which is literally just like half the reason why we have so many problems is because we've imported a bunch of third worlders into our country who hate us, like flat out. So now we have several agencies just dedicated to that. It's fucking insane. Anyways. Yeah, I would say that we're probably going to want to wrap things up, guys. I'm debating whether I want to go for a nighttime jog or not, whether I'm going to be lazy or not. I'll probably have to force myself to go for a jog, just so I'm not lazy, because I don't really want to gain weight. But, don't really feel like doing it, but I might have to. It was raining for half of today, so it's kind of sucked out. Glowy says, what I mean is you want to do what the left did in colleges, make sure right-wing professors don't get tenure or any positions of power, make hostile environment for right-wing students. Not exactly. That isn't really the point of my position. It's basically just to force the colleges to decide if they're going to die on like, colleges will either have to get rid of these professors to be able to afford to stay open, or they will fall on their sword and go out of business and be replaced. That's really the point. It's to force the opposition's hand. It's not really to, like, demonize left-wing students or any shit like that. That's not the point. If that's your point, then fine, but that's not mine. Mine is to basically force the hand of our enemies, and we basically will cut off one of the primary sources of our enemies, recruitment, and the gestation of their crazy Byzantine ideology. Like, if we kneecap the universities, we will do serious damage to our enemies. They'll lose a massive component to recruitment, and they will lose a massive component to propaganda and the perpetuation of their ideology. So it's a very easy change that could be made that will be highly effective against our enemies. It's not really about the students. So yeah, is there anything else, guys, before we cut this off? Any last minute, not super chats, but Streamlabs chats? If you got any last messages to put in and that, I'm looking at the chat, so speed it on up, because I'm probably gonna debate whether I'm gonna go for a walk or not or something at this time. No, and we got nothing else. No one has anything to say. No one has any questions or nothing. There's absolutely nothing going on. I guess I'll take this time before we end I'll tell you guys to like the stream. I probably should have done it earlier when we sort of peaked out in terms of viewership, but be sure to like the stream. I'll get my metrics back after being away for a few months. And be sure to follow me on Gettr. I have an account on Gettr. I've linked it in the description of this video. I'll make sure that it's in the description after I end the stream. Still in there, but I linked it below. And if you want to keep up with me, I'll be on there if I have anything to say. I'm trying to get some good news sources on Gettr together to actually have something to stream about. It's a bit difficult because I used to get all my news from Twitter. That's really one of the downsides of being banned on Twitter, is that I just lost pretty much all of my sources of news. Like all my gaming news, all the news, political news, I lost a lot from getting banned on Twitter, but I knew it would happen eventually, so I'm not really that upset by it. But alright, it looks like we're done there, so I'll just thank everyone for standing by. I know that I lost some support during my hiatus, but I'm not really worried about that. I'm not really worried if people cut off their support and that, or unsubscribed or anything like that. Not really worried that much by it, because I didn't really have much to say over the past few months, really. But I will say to the people that are interested that I'm thinking about that new Life is Strange game. I'll think about streaming it. I won't be able to do it until probably next week at the earliest, if even that. Because today's my day off and I'll be going back to work tomorrow. But I'm thinking about playing it, but I'm just hoping it's better than the fucking last one, because the last one was just an abortion. It was so boring. So I'm kind of put off by it, because I'm not sure it's going to be any good and worth playing or not, to at least have fun with and laugh at. But in the meantime, be sure to follow me and all that, and as soon as I get off, I'll upload that commentary I've been promising. But thanks to everyone who turned out tonight and supported me tonight, and those of you that stuck around and all that and were patient with me being gone. Appreciate that, everybody, and I'll try to get out some new content in the near future for people to enjoy, and try to find a balancing act with my job so that I can actually put out content and continue being a commentator while also working a full-time job that doesn't leave me too much time to myself. I'll try to find a balance. But thanks for everyone turning out tonight, and I'll talk to you guys again, hopefully in the near future, and we'll see if I can get to a stream with Sargon again in the near future. Alright? Talk to you guys later.